So, yeah. Welcome to the Fashion Effect. And Laura, you are here today with us to give us a quick snippet of your life and your involvement with fashion and the fashion movement here in Iowa. And I hear, are you a professor?
Yeah, I have been an adjunct professor of various places. I've actually come to Iowa State and been invited to speak in other professors' classes, and then I've taught at Drake and Grandview and Des Moines Area Community College in Des Moines, and then I've done some online teaching in Cedar Rapids and a few other places.
So, do you only do marketing for branding, or is it marketing all around?
So I'm a marketing strategist, and I currently am teaching international marketing and marketing strategy for Grandview. And then I also teach an internet marketing course for them. And so not specifically focused on branding, but branding is part of the conversation overall. So I would be probably considered more of a marketing generalist, although I'm pretty heavy in digital marketing and social media from when social media was first becoming a thing. So I don't do as much in keeping track of all of the tactics and all of the details of every channel anymore. But I do kind of keep in mind the segments and which channels reach what section of the population and what are kind of the overall trends, so that when I'm looking at strategy, I can keep in mind what's happening and where people are shifting their, where are they consuming media? Where are they learning about things? So, and then I try to keep it to people who are maybe specialists on that platform that know more about the ins and outs of how to be fully optimized, So I will partner with people on particular tactics on different channels. So I also teach small business management, small business marketing, small business startup, and Drake, I taught entrepreneurship. So, yeah.
So, kind of like the persons we had previously interviewed, they all were in some kind of like marketing or have a marketing background, but now they all work in, their own businesses. They're all entrepreneurs or business owners, and they pursue like things in fashion where they're trying to either build a brand or push out brand or to try and innovate people or move them into a certain kind of mindset with their marketing. So for your lectures and your classes that you teach at these universities, do you get a lot of students who are from this background where they're creatives and they want to find a way, like a path forward for their business or their future business?
Yeah. So just as a little backstory, I went to the textile and clothing program at Iowa State. So I was part of Central Academy in Des Moines' fashion program. And then I went on to Iowa State, and I almost finished my degree at Iowa State. I was 12 credits shy when I was actually hired to work in design in a manufacturing company that actually worked in like hunting and shooting apparel. That it's been sold now, but then they had another little division that was focused on bags, like tote bags and sports bags, and I took over that division and did that for 10 years. So, and at that time, social media wasn't really even a thing, so we did catalogs and trade shows and that kind of advertising, and then the company sold. After I was there for 5 years, we grew it from, not the company, the division. We grew it from $1 million to $21 million.
Oh my goodness.
Sold it, and then I effectively didn't have a position anymore. And so I went back to school at Drake and focused on advertising management with a marketing minor. And that's what kind of got me more away from just pure manufacturing and more on the marketing side. But even when I was at the company was called Airtex, I was doing marketing and product development for them. But then I just formalized my marketing education. And eventually I went back and got an MBA with an internet marketing specialty. So all of that in context, today I'm able to teach at the university level. And then when I'm not teaching, I work with a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, I'll say. The one company I work with now is about 7 million, so they would still be considered medium, really. And so, but my heart and passion is really for the entrepreneur. It's really, I had always wanted to have a fashion line of my own. At the time, I was a mom, and I couldn't get the support or get the traction I would need. You used to have to go to New York City or LA or somewhere. And so I wanted to have a family, and I eventually decided that that wasn't the route I wanted to go, but there were no other routes then. So I was fortunate to have been able to work in design with a company in Iowa. But once the company was sold, then I decided to shift gears and go more the marketing route. But what was really exciting is when social media became a thing and the internet and websites and e-commerce, then that means you don't have to move away anymore. You can build a brand here and still stay closer to your family, or, whatever your roots are that, for whatever reason you might wish to be in the Midwest, you can still do that, and it's not a trade-off. For me, it was like, which one am I going to do, right?
True.
And so I am really excited now to work with people who are getting their start and have tools to help them be able to do that. So it's a really exciting time, really since about 2007 or so, when we saw social media becoming more and more something that you could be a startup and actually get the word out. And so that's kind of where I've stayed, is at that cross section between entrepreneurs and marketing and go-to-market strategies, like you said, pushing out a brand. And so that's really exciting to come alongside people, see what they're doing, see their dreams and visions be able to come to fruition. And for whatever part I can be helpful, that's really exciting to me. So I see myself in some of the younger people starting out, and it's cool to see them pursuing that. So
It is really cool. I just meeting them and meeting you. This is like our second time meeting. It's like the backstory and the lore of it all is so interesting to me, because it's like you really can pursue your passions even if the original plan shifts.
Yes.
And you have to shift with it.
Yep.
Because I know, if you're a parent, your child is, main focus. But then it's like your career and your passions, where do they align?
Right.
Where do they go after all of that? And as for your fashion line that you were talking about, do you see other like people who may have been in the same position as you pursue a fashion line, and do you give them advice maybe from your position from back then, or is your advice kind of newer and fresher, and you maybe have more insight in how to try to get their branding out there, or how to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing perspective, everything that I talk about now is completely different from before. Almost none of the tools that I used to market when I was first in the business are what I work with people on now, because it is a lot of digital. And there's some holistic and sort of tried and true things about marketing that will always remain, that haven't changed at all. And that's really just understanding, and even product development. It's about understanding who you're creating value for. So who are you designing clothing for? Who is going to appreciate what you are producing, right? And it's the same thing with marketing content. Who are you trying to interest in that marketing content? And I think sometimes people forget who it is that they're focused on. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I get the water?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why I all of a sudden got a tickle. I apologize. No. Hopefully you can cut all that out.
We can edit. We have the power.
Anyway, so I'll just take a little sip here. So, for example, the cool thing about doing product development alongside marketing is you're typically not thinking about two different people. Who you are designing for is also who you're trying to market to, right? There might be some exceptions to that. If you were maybe designing a children's line and it's the parent that might be purchasing those clothing, so you might be designing for children but trying to reach parents. Some would argue that if you're designing for men, you might be trying to reach their girlfriend. But but a lot of times that the people that you are designing for will be the same people that you're marketing to. And so being able to, from a product development point of view and from a design point of view, obviously keeping up with the trends, being able to see what's happening in the fashion world from a avant-garde or from a very high level. We borrow inspiration, like no matter what design field you're in. We borrow inspiration from the past. We borrow inspiration from the world around us. Every single aspect of society can contribute to our design thinking. And then our job is to take all of that in and create something that will be appealing to the person that we're thinking about, who's our muse, if you will. When I do marketing, I also talk about brand persona. So thinking about all the aspects of the person that you're marketing to. What do they eat? Where do they, what do they do on their free time?
Yeah, how do they feel? How do you want them to feel when they put on this item or purchase this item?
Exactly. So you're really trying to get into their head, right? And know about their life and their interests. And, so there's so much crossover between when you're thinking about design and you're also thinking about content that you're creating. It's very similar in that you're thinking of that brand persona. So those things haven't changed, at all, right? That's always been the case. It's just in marketing where the kind of content that you're creating and where you're distributing content is different today. So when I was doing photo shoots back in the day, our distribution channel was a print catalog, right? So, or eventually it was a website, or it was graphics that we were putting in a trade show booth or whatever. Now we have this opportunity to produce things and overnight, push it out. So, but it's still the same problem. It's just different solutions to the same problem. So, so a lot of that's applicable still today. And I just have really focused in terms of distribution and channels on where people live and consume content today. We used to do radio spots. Now we're doing podcasts. We used to do television. Now it's YouTube videos. So So
like newspaper
it's
ads.
it's just shifted. So anyway, that's kind of my background. I did do a fair amount of traveling overseas when I was a designer. So really, even though I didn't do the traditional like high fashion and go to New York and all that, I was very blessed to have been able to be in the Midwest and work as a designer. So I did, over 15 years of solely supporting myself in design. So that's something that a lot of people don't get to do. And on top of that, we did manufacturing in Iowa. Eventually, a lot of manufacturing went offshore, and I got to experience what it's like to go to China, Taiwan, the Philippines, Mexico, India, and be able to work with offshore manufacturing and see what it's like to get your designs in a new place to be manufactured, having to deal with, do they understand my notes? Do they understand what I'm trying to do here?
Oh, yeah.
Being able to look at what fabrics they have available in that particular region. You want to choose fabrics that are more native to their area. So India works a lot in cotton. China has a lot of synthetics. And so Mexico, we did a lot of leather tanning and cottons there as well. So knowing if you're going to do something in natural fibers or, what do they have easy access to? So that was just an amazing education, right? To be able to have the chance to do that. I started traveling when I was 24, and then the company sold when I was almost 30. So I was very young at the time, and I just feel very blessed to have had that worldview of manufacturing, and also working right on a sewing floor with sewers right here in the United States. So it really was an amazing journey. And now I don't necessarily always just work with people in fashion. I really have expanded to apply a lot of this to other industries. But when I get the chance to work with people that are in fashion, that just takes me back to my heart and my, original journey. And I, that's why I've gotten involved with Jana and the Fashion Effect. Every time there was anything in Ames or Des Moines that had anything to do with fashion, I still go back to Central Academy's fashion shows every year. For 40 years now, they've been doing that show. And so I was part of their second ever graduating class. So seeing what those students are doing now and the stage production they put on, it's just amazing to see that. I go up to Iowa State shows sometimes, and it seems like in Iowa, it's kind of come and gone, right? It goes, we'll start to build up some momentum again, and then it'll lose ground. Some of that's things like the pandemic. Some of it's maybe somebody that was trying to lead the charge went another direction. So it's really exciting to see Jana and the Fashion Effect, and to see someone picking up the gauntlet and saying, hey, you know what, we want to have a 515 fashion again. We actually want to make Iowa that hub again. It's a big vision, but if you don't have a big vision, it won't happen, right? No. So I'm glad that nobody's holding back. They're not thinking small. In Iowa, just speaking from an entrepreneurial position, working with lots of entrepreneurs and small business owners, people tend in Iowa to think too small.
That I was going to ask. That was my follow-up question, is that why do you think it's so hard for fashion movements here to be accepted? Whereas you go to other cities and it's a thing. It's something that people look forward to. Like, they really plan an entire year and go, okay, we can't miss this show because, LA puts on the best shows or New York puts on the best shows. How come we struggle to do that here when we have so many people interested in working towards that goal?
Well, I'm gonna talk about ecosystem. So we have an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Des Moines. It's not as big as Kansas City. It's not as big as Omaha in general. It's not as big as Chicago, but we do have, and that's where I live, so I'm saying Des Moines, but let's just say Central Iowa. It takes an ecosystem to get traction, kind of that old adage that it takes,
A village to...
It takes a village, or a rising tide lifts all boats, if you've heard of that expression before. And so sometimes it takes a critical mass of enough people coming together to create an ecosystem where people can thrive. So, there's been a huge migration from rural areas. That's a worldwide thing. Farming, different things like that, loses traction. People need jobs. Maybe the infrastructure, internet, or whatever it takes has not been developed. And so when people need to be able to get a job or grow or have that critical infrastructure, they start migrating. That changed a lot when there was internet. If you can imagine, before internet, what would you do? You would have to move somewhere because there was no, maybe you had a phone. We didn't have cell phones. And so it would be super hard if you weren't there. And then internet, social media, everything came along. That should really democratize, in other words, make it available to everyone. And yet we still see that if the talent and the exposure is too dispersed, there's something about being able to have people in the same industry in proximity where you can actually meet face to face, where you can actually be inspired, work with someone, get connections. So that's the same reason why tech is in Silicon Valley. You know, that's the reason why you see fashion, developed in certain areas that, for whatever reason, became a hub. I mean, the coast became a hub because at one point, the best way to ship things was being on the coast, right? And so we ship and receive things all around the world by ports. And so that's the reason why big cities became big cities where they are. They're always coastal. But so there are some cities that proactively, somebody started something and they created, it became a hub, and then that becomes a magnet for all the other people. And so really, we struggle here just because we don't have the same critical mass that other places have. And it takes someone to start that and think big and want to do it. And it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's a tough burden
And you
to carry.
have to be able to get first of all, it's a team thing. You can't think that you're going to do it alone. There is someone that can lead the charge, and they have the charisma and the passion and the energy for it, but they also have to be able to delegate, bring people along, and people have to see that vision and be attracted to it. So it doesn't mean that we can't attract people from all over Iowa, but being able to have a critical mass of people that can work together in a central place. You build an ecosystem. Could be a digital ecosystem. If you build it right, you could have people from all over the state or even other areas. If you can build an online structure where people can, but at the end of the day, you want to put on a show. You want to be able to bring people together at some point somewhere, right? There's still a lot to be said for physical presence. So
we're working on it. And
So
I think it'll be a success. I really see it happening because just, speaking to the people around me and asking questions, I feel like people want to go see a show. They want to see something that's not a music festival, that's not like a children's school performance. They really want to see something different. I just think, like you said, the hunger is there. The audience, however, the mass of people is not. And hopefully, if we can get our media right and we can really do that outreach and convince people it's worth it to come down here.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that you have to have the buyers, the audience, the people that are supporting the community, right? So ecosystem is one thing. So bigger cities also have the benefit of having more population, so there's more potential buyers. And so that's why you find also that people get very concentrated in larger cities. But we have e-commerce. So I keep coming back to, yes, but we have tools. So how do you build the traction in the location, build the scene, build a community, get the network, get the ecosystem going, and at the same time, be able to include people that maybe aren't right there on a continual basis, but then that they can travel. So you're giving them support from a distance, but also bringing them into the group for physical events. And yeah, so I think at the end of the day, it's the ecosystem building. And then in entrepreneurship, if you're in a place where the geography is very large and you can support that business just on who's around you, used to be that's your only choice. Now, if you're going to have a scene that you're building in Iowa and Des Moines area and Ames area as the hub, that's great because all the creators are there, all the designers are there. Then you, in order to have, but we maybe don't have enough critical mass of people buying and seeing and coming out. So you have to widen your audience. And that's where the digital marketing comes in. That's where being able to, like you said, get the marketing out, get the word out, and be able to attract people to a place where they can buy and can support the artists. I want people to be able to have what they love doing to be their plan A, not their plan B, like they're working this other job and, oh, I got to do this on the side. I mean, if you have to and you love it, you will. But it would be nice to be able to support people in a way that it doesn't have to be your second thing that you do on the side, that it can actually be your plan A. So
Yeah,
that's what I think is really exciting about what Jana and what the Fashion Effect is trying to do.
Yeah, she and the team are really
Yeah, the
pushing,
whole team, absolutely.
to make this something that doesn't have to just be a hobby or a side gig. That this could be
Right.
a true career path and an entryway into a larger, like fashion industry or district or whatever it may be. And I think I've learned a lot from you today. You know about management and like entrepreneurship, marketing, and what it really takes to get something to become like a hot hub or hot spot. And I think we can do that. It will take some work.
I think leaving it on this note, because I know that we need to wrap up, but we also need to challenge ourselves to lean into what is the unique value that Iowa has compared to other places. So we're not trying to necessarily replicate what other people are doing. We're trying to create something that's uniquely different and valuable because it's in Iowa. And I can't say what that is. That's something that everyone that is here building has to be able to collectively say, what is it about here that we can offer that's really different? And then the second thing I would say is that, remember I said I've been going to those fashion shows for like 40 years, right? So remember that we've got virtual reality, we have augmented reality, we have all these sort of immersive, experiential technology, but also it's mixed reality, like it's mixing the real world with the virtual world. And that's a really hot trend right now. I actually own a virtual reality arena. I'm a part owner of that. And there is actually some fashion shows that are happening in VR and shows that are being put on all around the world. And so we can also gravitate to a trend and say, nobody's doing this. How about let's combine something that attracts people to our production because it's so different. So I think also looking at other adjacent industries, especially in media and production, and say, how do we bring that into the fashion industry? Or moreover, how do we lead that in Iowa because nobody else is doing it in the Midwest, So I'll just leave it on those couple of challenges.